Hi, it's Sia. Welcome back to Pitch to Power. Today I'm joined by Mr. Manish Karani, entrepreneur, founder, and CEO of Curately.ai. With over 20 years of experience in staffing, talent acquisition, and building and leading companies, Mr. Karani has seen the recruiting industry evolve firsthand. And today he brings that experience into AI, building technology designed to transform how companies find and hire talent. In this episode, we'll walk through his entrepreneurial journey, the lessons he's learned from decades of building businesses, and where he believes AI will take recruiting in the future. Let's get started.
Hey, Sia.
Well, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Can you?
So, I want to start off with obviously, you've spent more than 2 decades building companies in recruiting and technology. And what problem kept showing up throughout your career that eventually made you say, I need to build a technology solution for this?
Uh, Great question. Yeah, so I've spent all my life in recruiting, and I own a staffing and recruiting agency. It's very heavily manual, human, involved, and that is also a big flaw. And you know, so people have always tried to automate a lot of stuff that can maybe fill in that gap or solve that problem of human.
Yeah.
Meaning, okay, let me elaborate. What so people forget to write notes. People forget to follow up with the candidate because they had other priorities, or they were pulled into a meeting and things like that. And so people cannot keep context in mind, and a lot of those gaps, right? So people there were always need to automate stuff, and companies have tried automating over last 20 years, but with now advent of AI, automation, what actual automation everybody was really hoping to achieve is possible now, right? And so that's kind of what I saw, and an opportunity, and I said, hey, this could be my opportunity to actually solve some of these problems that have been festering in the industry and all that. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And you founded multiple companies. At what point does an idea show it's actually worth building on than just a good idea?
Great question. My personal philosophy. So if I have idea, if I get that same thought and same idea and same situation, and that my gut keeps coming back with that idea 3 times in a short span of time period, like maybe in 2 weeks or in 3-4 weeks, right? Not over 6 months, but in next 2-3-4 weeks, that you know I realized, oh, this idea is going to work. Actually, this solves the problem. Then I become serious about it.
Okay, thank you. And what advice would you give a teenager today who wants to start something in the future?
So there's never gonna be a playbook, right? And there's no clarity, and these are all things you probably have heard in other podcasts, other people say, and it is a fact. And so my advice, if don't build or don't do something with the motivation of like, okay, this may sell or this will make me money,
Mhm.
that has never ever worked out ever
Yeah.
in anybody's life. If you are doing something that solves a problem, money will come. So I'm not saying do charity or do something for free,
Yeah.
but the reason that you decide to do something cannot be, hey, I want to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
But if you solve the problem, and whatever you did, provides value. So.
That makes so much sense. Thank you. And do you think that being a repeat founder makes starting a company easier, or does knowing everything make it harder?
No, it never gets easier, ever. Yeah, but knowing and having previous experience helps for sure. It definitely gives you a little bit of a platform. You can avoid some of the pitfalls and common mistakes and those things. So it does help, but it never gets easy. Because if you're starting something new, that's the keyword, new. So you don't know how the market will react. You don't, whenever you're starting at that point in time, the macro and micro
Yeah.
economics may be different than what you did in the past. So there are all these things. So it's never actually easy. But if you enjoy the journey, then it is never hard. Right? So,
Okay, got it. And on that note, if came into the market, a competitor with 10 times the amount of resources, what skill or what's something you would rely on to stay ahead of them?
a great question. Obviously, there is not like a cookie cutter answer, like that can be applied. But if I say things that have always helped me and what I have seen and studied is deep vertical understanding. So a big competitor comes in, they may have a lot of resources, but if you can still fight and then have your space, and maybe you still beat them if you have one thing that is very deep, vertical knowledge.
Yeah.
Second, take advantage of what you have, right? So if you are smaller, that means you're nimble. You can decide faster, move faster, build faster, fail faster, learn faster, and that's a strength, not a weakness, right? If you don't have the money resources that the competitor has, then then you're resourceful, right? So then there are resourceful, frugal ways of doing things. If I like say, for example, if the competitor has millions and millions, and they can pay, pay for a lot of ads in Facebook or Google or LinkedIn, great, no problem. You don't have that kind of money, so be frugal. Reach out to some influencers, creators, some thought leaders in the industry you are in, and you can offer them some equity in the company. You can offer them a seat on the board and things like that. And those are easier, frugal way of still being able to compete, right? So there's always things, and that's what is when I say journey, right? It's a journey. And if you enjoy the journey, and these are challenges, they're all very stressful moments. I'm
Yeah.
not like telling you, that it's going to be all like cartoon fun, but it's also fun though.
Okay, that makes sense. What characteristics have you noticed in your best employees that you didn't initially hire them for?
The best employees, they take initiative, and that's simple as that, right? Like if somebody sticks to their job description and the bullet points that were in the job description, and they say, well, this is what I do, and this is not in my job description,
Yeah.
I don't see them, having a lot of future at any company generally. So
Okay. Keep doing more than you have to kind of.
take initiative, right? Because not everybody knows your strengths, and a lot of times you yourselves don't know what your strengths are, what you're capable of. And so if you don't take a new initiative, you are actually depriving yourself of that opportunity to even understand, oh, I didn't know this, but there was a need. We heard in the meeting that we are looking to do this, and we are maybe trying to look for a external consultant, or we have this gap. Oh, I went, studied, read up about it, watched a couple of YouTube videos, and then I experimented, and I was able to do. So I learned, and so that's taking initiative. You are not just like doing it for the company. Yes, you are absolutely, but but don't lie to yourselves. You're actually doing it for yourselves. You are progressing your career. You are giving yourselves an opportunity to see what new things can you do, what actually strengths you are made of, and things like that. So
Okay, thank you. Looking back at your journey when you were starting, how would you go about starting your company? I don't know how old you were, but if someone in their early 20s or really wanted to start something, how do you think they should go about that?
I started my first company or my first business when I was 14. How would I go about it? Honestly, I wouldn't change, anything I did from what I've learned in last 30 years. Is don't try to be everything to everybody. Figure out what you want to be and stick with it, or figure out what the company is going to be like. Hey, this is what we do, this is our specialty, this is the wedge, this is the focus, and stick with it. And that's very hard. You get tempted often because you'll talk to a lot of people and they're like, oh, that's great, but can you do this too? And then you're like, okay, oh, if I did that, will you sign up,
Yeah.
right? And that kind of just takes you down the path that actually in long run hurts. So,
Okay, thank you. And on the note of people, what's something you've learned about people from being a founder that you didn't know earlier?
oh, great question. What I have learned about people is people require very clear, constant communication. So
Yeah.
that is one thing that I've learned in sense, like, okay, well, just because somebody's part of a company for even multiple years, I have realized that, oh, they don't know everything about the company. And, so I assumed, right? I assumed when I was, 20 and 21 and working for a company, um, just maybe my curious mind, I, tried to learn and understand everything they did, why they did it, how we do, who are in our company, what, like, all those things, just curious. But that's not common.
Okay.
And so as what I learned hard way is, oh, you have to, communicate often, communicate very clearly, maybe over communicate, because that's something that just innately people don't have, like they don't learn things about the company they're part of. So,
Okay, got it. And when you're hiring people or just looking at other business owners, what's one skill that stands out to you? One trait that you think can take someone really far?
when I'm hiring people, so I look for drive. I ask everybody what drives you, and the answer tells me, if everybody has a reason and everybody tells me a reason. A lot of times in our industry, people say helping people drives me. No, I don't think so. That drive dies off really quickly.
Yeah.
So that's important because you can teach everything, probably a lot of things, but you
Mm.
cannot teach drive. You cannot
Yeah.
inculcate drive in a person. And so that's something that's very critical.
Okay, got it. And when did you realize that you wanted to really take the risk to start your company, knowing that you might just lose so much if it fails? Which obviously it didn't, but
So I grew up in a entrepreneur family, generations and generations of entrepreneurs and builders and operators. I'm very blessed, meaning I grew up just constantly listening, observing, subconscious mind, learning, things like that. So my mind doesn't think the way a lot of other people who may have grew up in a family where the parents were professionals, right? Maybe doctors, and the child wants to now become an entrepreneur, so that they don't have that environment. I've never been afraid of taking risks because I thought that's the way of life. That you just take risk, you win some bets, you lose some bets,
yeah.
you play the game, and that's it, right? I didn't realize that there was alternate where you can just have a safe life. So
That's great. Thank you. And I want to tie this up with one last question. If you could talk to yourself when you were starting your first company, what's one thing that you would tell yourself to keep in mind?
one thing I will tell myself is finding the right partners. Take time, but finding the right partners and having the right partners can do wonders, can accelerate things. I mean, 100x. Like that's one thing I remind myself, and don't try to do it all alone. Right, find the right team, right partners is the key.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for meeting with me today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I do appreciate your words. Thank you. Of
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Excited. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
course. Bye.